The other day we were discussing how in this dispensation which is outside of the Buddha Sasana, and those who follow such disciplines or such teachings, such teachings and such people are void of true Samana, noble Samana who have true knowledge. At this point, the Atthakatha commentaries have given this 12 kinds of noble Samanas, kilesa extinguishers, who have true knowledge. And this was not, this subject was not continued the other day, as yesterday Sayadaw gave the interim talk, breaking the normal discourse in order to advise yogis to be able to be energetic and diligent in the practice of Satipatthana, because he found that they were weak in their appreciation of the benefits of Satipatthana, and they are weak in their practice. They've been practicing casually, marginally, and most of the time they are not mindful. Thus, their names are listed, maybe listed in the blacklist, Paṇḍitā Vihari, that is living with negligence or heedlessness. If one is in this list listed as Paṇḍitā Vihari, blacklist, then one will not be able to cultivate insight. And because one cannot cultivate insight, one also becomes one of the Paṇḍitā Vihari. So it's a vicious cycle. And the reverse of that is whitelist, Apaṇḍitā Vihari. That is living, those yogis living or behaving diligently and heedfully. In this way, Sayadaw described these two kinds of yogis. So, if one is negligent in the practice, heedless, and doing and slack in their practice, then they will be named as or called as Paṇḍitā Vihari. So Sayadaw doesn't want you to be Paṇḍitā Vihari. Instead, he wants you to be diligent Apaṇḍitā Vihari. So, as the Buddha has given this discourse, yes, he exhorted yesterday, as the Buddha has done, to practice attentively, to be mindful attentively, respectfully and carefully, cherishing and appreciating the benefits of the practice. So today we shall take up where we left off regarding the description of these 12 noble Samanas who have true knowledge. The 12 noble Samanas who have true knowledge have been divided or given by the commentaries as follows. Namely, first, Arada Vipassaka. That means 4 Vipassana yogis who have already begun the practice and are sustaining it. In other words, ongoing, sustaining practitioner. Such are the 4 kinds of Vipassana yogis. Such people are the kind of yogis who have at least realized the insight knowledge known as Udiyada Jnana, the fleeting momentary nature, and knowledge of the fleeting momentary nature of experience. Such is Arada Vipassaka. This is Vipassana meditator, Vipassana yogi, not Samatha yogi, the one who is practicing tranquility meditation. And next comes 4 Meghatha yogis. That means 4 individuals. They are Ariyas, the noble ones. 4 noble ones who are realizing at that moment this path consciousness. That is the momentary consciousness. At that very moment, they are known as 4 Meghatha Ariyas, 4 noble individuals. Meghatha Pogala. Then comes Phalatha Pogala, 4 Ariyas, 4 noble individuals, 4 four noble ones who are established in the fruit of the path. That means after they have attained the path consciousness, they are experiencing the fruit of the path. Such are Paṇḍitā, Pukkala. In this way, with these four Arahata Vipassaka, four Vipassana yogis who are sustaining the practice, and four Megata, noble ones, and four Paṇḍitā, noble ones, make 12 noble ones who have true knowledge. So in this way, we have 12 Samanas who have extinguished, who are 12 Samanas as being given in the commentaries. So these are the noble Samanas who have true knowledge. As for other denominations and teachings other than the Buddha Sasana, and in those who are following such teachings, they are void of these noble Samanas of true knowledge. Then there is this expression, Sunya is given as void, void of the Samanas, and Tocha means empty, empty of Samanas, and Vedaka means absent or null. They are the same and the meaning different, although they are different in wording. Among these 12 individuals, the four kinds of yogis who are practicing in order to realize the path four path consciousness, and this has to be properly noted. One should be very careful. One should be able to remember understand about this samana, that is the yogi who is practicing towards the goal of path consciousness. Now, about this Arahata Vipassaka, so he says he wants to touch on this subject, this individual, Arahata, known as Arahata Vipassaka. That kind of person is the kind of yogi, practitioner, who have already begun and is sustaining the practice with 3 stages undergoing or exerting 3 stages of virya, energy, exertion of energy. Firstly, the first kind of energy, virya, is initial application of energy, initial launching energy, you might call it. You have to launch your energy first in order to be able to know the object. After having learned the method of practice, wishing to realize the four path consciousness, knowing the practice of Satipatthana, one undertake the practice, let us say, as has been given by the late Venerable Mahasi Sayadaw in accordance with the exposition. One notes the main object, beginning with the main object of rising and falling, and your footsteps during walking. You apply energy, you launch your energy in order to note these objects. For instance, rising and falling during sitting and lifting, moving, placing, pardon me, during walking. That is the initial energy, virya, in order to activate your mindfulness. Just like sowing the seed in the beginning. This is known as Arambha Dhatu, initial launching energy. Now in due course, you're confronted with difficult situations. As for most of us, we're used to living comfortably, easily. So in the beginning of the practice, not being used to this intensive course, we tend to become lazy, sluggish, because especially when we have not yet experienced the flavor of the Dhamma, the taste of the Dhamma, the quality of the Dhamma, such as not being able to sit through the hour and not being able to bear unbearable situations, sensations, because one cannot bear these unbearable sensations. One may be moving about, changing posture and so on, thus not being able to intensify this Kanika Samadhi, momentary concentration. If one cannot cultivate momentary concentration, one will not be able to cultivate insight knowledge. So when the time comes to bear with gritted teeth, or to grin and bear, one has got to do so. And not to be able to be overcome by this sloth and torpor, not wishing to exert energy to start off with. And even if one exerts energy, one gets easily exhausted. Such is kausaja, sluggishness, which is very dangerous for the yogis. If one is overcome by this laziness, sluggishness, one will not be able to undertake the practice. Even one undertake the practice, one will not be able to exert, continue the practice, strive on along the path, and will not be able to intensify your khanika samadhi, momentary concentration, not to mention developing the inside knowledge. At that time, you need to step up your energy in order to overcome these difficult situations, in this case, sluggishness, laziness, such as nekama dhatu, stepped up energy, boost up energy in order to be liberating energy, in order to be free from these difficult situations. Once you are able to overcome these difficult situations, you are well on the path, well on a course, cruising, you might call it, as in your own right, as much as you can, because you begin to experience the quality of the practice, the Dhamma, which you had not practiced before, and you will be able to intensify your concentration and develop knowledge. And of course, at this point, it is necessary to set a goal, not to stop in between. And the goal should be at least the path consciousness. Of course, Vipassana is striving towards the realization of full path consciousness. That is the goal. So you have to walk step by step, stage by stage, in order to reach that cherished goal. And such kind of virya, energy, the energy in stages until you reach the goal is known as parakama dhatu. In this way, you apply or exert energy in 3 stages. At this stage, you are said to be realizing the insight knowledge known as Uriyabhya Jnana, seeing the arising and passing away of psychophysical phenomena in a very fast manner. Such is known as Arada Vipassana. You are striving towards the goal of path consciousness, and you have already begun the practice and you are sustaining it. You're ongoing practitioner. Such a Vipassana yogi is what is meant, and one is said to be in possession of Bhagahita Vriya. Bhagahita Vriya means when you are lifting something, the material will only be lifted up, not stagnate in between, nor fall down. It will just rise up with momentum. And such stage is also known as Paripurna Vriya, fulfilling energy. You're said to be exerting the fulfilled energy. So such a yogi is what is meant by this Arada Vipassana. And this is one kind of Samana. So this Arada Vriya is striving towards the realization of our path. One has already begun and already sustaining the practice, ongoing practice. Such a Vipassana yogi is what is meant. And such a yogi has already realized the insight stage, known as Uriyabhya Jnana and so on. And such a yogi is known as Kalyana Puttujana yogi. In the commentaries it said that one is practicing insight knowledge. One has got to practice insight knowledge in order to realize the path consciousness. If one does not undertake the practice, one will not realize the path consciousness. At least, in order to, one has got to remember or take this as a definite rule that one has got to do in order to realize the path. one does not by this, one will not realize the kingdom of God. That is the testament to honestly remember. And one is only sure when one is able to realize, strive from the state of Paṇḍitā, that is updating energy, towards very Paṇḍitā, fulfilling energy. Only then one will be sure to realize what God knows. So in order to do that, one must be exerting energy continuously, so as not to fall down, not stagnate in the middle. Instead, one must be exerting more and more energy, better and better energy, and not to activate mindfulness, not to miss or lose every arising object as it arises. So one has got to strive along the path towards that goal. So in order to do that, one must be able to use this driving force to drive the noting mind towards the object, so that noting mind will be sustained on the object concurrently. And of course, when one reaches the stage of insight knowledge known as Udayavya Jnana, that is the knowledge of fast arising and passing away, then one may not need to exert extraordinary energy. One may be able to cruise along, and one will be able to note normally without too much exertion, because one has built momentum already. So build momentum in this way, on the stage of this Udayavya Jnana, progressing along the successive stages of insight towards the maturity of liberating wisdom, experiencing the ultimate cessation with path consciousness. Such is known as Paripurna Vriya, fulfilling energy, an energy by which you have fulfilled your practice, and one has got to strive towards that goal. As in the beginning of the practice, the yogi will not be able to cultivate the insight knowledge as yet. One has got to possess or cultivate Sila Visuddhi, purify one's morality, and Cheta Visuddhi, purify one's mind, or possess moral purity and mental purity, Cheta Visuddhi, Sila Visuddhi and Cheta Visuddhi. In order to do that, one has got to guard oneself with vigilant mindfulness of every arising as they arise, beginning with the main object of rising and falling, and every arising object, sustaining one's mindfulness with power of energy and focusing. Once one is able to activate mindfulness continuously, one is bound to develop this Kanika Samadhi, and this Kanika Samadhi will be made to rise continuously. For 1 minute, the Kanika Samadhi may be continuous, or even for 2 minutes or 3 minutes and so on. In this way, one is building up this power of Kanika Samadhi, so that one will become free of hindrances, nivranas, leading to this purity of mind, Cheta Visuddhi. And if one continues to practice building up this Kanika Samadhi, momentary concentration, one will come to be able to differentiate between the noting mind and noted object, that this is the noting mind, noting consciousness, and that this is the noted object. In this way, one will be able to differentiate between these two, and with a continued practice, building up the strength of Kanika Samadhi, one will come to understand the linkage of cause and effect, conditionality, of causal mode of psychophysical phenomena. And if one continues to practice in the course of the practice, one will come to see the impermanent nature of the psychophysical phenomena which are subject to cause and effect, as one sees the rising and passing away of these objects. And seeing the unsatisfactory nature of things, especially one is experiencing excruciating feelings, pain in the body, one comes to see that this is a mass of suffering. And then what is impermanent and suffering cannot be self or soul. They arise at their own, not at your will. They're happening, they are ungovernable, uncontrollable. So just like the weather conditions outside our body, sometimes cold, sometimes hot, sometimes rainy, sometimes humid, there's nothing you can do about it. They are arising, they're happening on their own. So too in our body, things are happening by themselves without any control or command from the Supreme Being. It is not any powerful being which is commanding all these things. It is things in the body are arising by themselves, at their will. So you come to understand that there is no such thing as self or soul, no atta. Thus you come to cultivate this knowledge of universal characteristics, universal marks of existence, such as impermanence and so on. At that moment, there cannot be any impurities, kilesas, arising in the stream of consciousness. They are not given a chance to arise in your consciousness, as regards the object noted. And in this way, kilesas are said to be extinguished. They cease to exist. Such is Samana, one who extinguishes, one who has extinguished the kilesas. So, as for devoted yogis, dedicated yogis, noting continuously with intensive practice, once you come to this cultivated insight knowledge, that also can be called Samana. Practicing yogis who are cultivating insight knowledge can also be called Samana. They are Vipassana Samana. They are practicing Vipassana and extinguishing or overcoming kilesas. Hence they are Vipassana Samana. Because they see the impermanent nature of existence by seeing the things arising and passing away, they overcome this perception of permanence. By that, they overcome or eradicate or discard this pride, mana. And seeing the unsatisfactory nature of existence, they will not be pulled away by craving. They will not succumb to tanha, craving. And because they are arising at their will, there's no self or soul, there will be no wrong view. So, with one moment of overcoming kilesa, you are for that moment samana. Because you are able to note this object, being able to grasp this object meticulously, you are overcoming kilesa. Kilesa cease to exist as regards this object properly noted. Thus, you have caused kilesas to cease. You are said to be extinguishing kilesas. As such, you are samana. It is at this point it is to be remembered that once if one is practicing Vipassana bhavana, if one cultivates knowledge, such as the universal marks of existence, insight knowledge of the universal marks of existence of the psychophysical phenomena which are subject to cause and effect, then one is free from these wrong views, and one is extinguishing kilesas. Kilesas cease to exist. Thus one is said to be listed as samana. And samana and bhikkhu are the same in meaning, though they are different in wording. And and the commentaries is given about satipatthana, that if one is able to activate mindfulness on these four kinds of objects, namely kaya, vena, citta, dhamma, objects of the body, feeling, mind, and general objects, with application of ardent energy, sustaining mindfulness, intensifying concentration, cultivating, seeing the true nature of things, such person is said to be listed as bhikkhu. Now, be they man or woman or monks, devas or brahmas or human beings, any bhikkhu can be called bhikkhu if one practices in this way. Bhikkhu means seeing the danger in the rounds of existence, seeing the danger in mind-body existence. One practices to be free from that. So, being aroused by a sense of urgency, one undertakes the practice. If one does not practice, then one will not be able to extinguish kilesas, overcome kilesas. If one undertakes the three trainings of Sila Samadhi Panya, one is bound to overcome the impurities in 3 grades, as we have discussed: gross forms, medium form, refined form of kilesas. Overcoming them, eradicating them by not giving them a chance to rise in the stream of consciousness. In this way, you are said to have extinguished, or you are said to be extinguishing, overcoming, causing them to cease to exist. Now, kilesas are not given to rise in the stream of consciousness. So, in this way, by this, you are said to have extinguished. So, not giving a chance to arise and extinguishing or overcoming are the same in meaning, though different in wording. So, one needs to understand that being listed as bhikkhu means the same thing as being listed as samana. That applies to all practicing yogis, be they monks or laity. If one practices, then one becomes samana. If not, if one does not practice, one will not become samana. Even if it's a lay person, if the monk doesn't practice, then this monk will be only a monk in appearance, nominal monk, but not the practicing monk, not the samana, but the true samana. So even if one is a lay person, if one undertakes the practice of vipassana and cultivates insight knowledge, one can be called samana. And if one realizes the path consciousness, becomes the noble one, Arya, attained person, then one becomes the noble samana who possesses true knowledge. It's also to be noted that even the so-called Buddhists who belong to Buddha Sasana, who are members of the Buddha Sasana, if they say that just knowing mind, body, and the universal characteristics through conceptual knowledge, just knowing this, by knowing this, with just the conceptual knowledge, one can accomplish the spiritual purpose. And saying that one need not practice vipassana, and for such people, they cannot be kalyana purujana, samanas even, not to mention the 8 ariyas, or the 8 kinds of attained people. Even, to be frank, even in countries like this country, where Buddha sadhana is flourishing, most of the people are traditional Buddhists, and though the country is flourishing, the sadhana is flourishing by way of pariyati patipati, that is study and practice, if they, by knowing, most of them just know by knowing the mind-body as being subject to the universal characteristics, and one need not undertake the practice. If one takes in this way, one holds the view in this way, that then one cannot be arada vipassaka. That means a yogi who is sustaining the practice. Not to mention samana, the true samana, 8 attained samana who have true knowledge. For them, they are void of arada vipassaka, and not to mention the 8 ariyas. So, although the country may be a Buddhist country, and Buddhism is flourishing, and most of the people are like this. And to be frank, even in this country where Buddhism flourishes, for most of the people, they are void of the true Buddhism is said to be declining, as has been said a few days ago about the question and answer between Subhada and Ananda, Bhattaka and Ananda. Bhattaka asked Ananda this question. After the Mahaparinibbana of the Buddha, the great passing away of the Buddha, how about what is the situation of the Buddha Sasana? Will it decline or progress? What will be the causes for the decline of this Sasana, and what will be the causes of the progress or sustaining of the Saddhamma, the sublime Dhamma? The answer given was that if one is not able to practice the Satipatthana to satisfactory stage, then the Saddhamma, sublime Dhamma will decline. And on the other hand, if the four Satipatthana is practiced and developed, then the Sasana will not decline. The sublime Dhamma will progress. So, to support this view, the commentary has further given that even during the lifetime of the Buddha, if no one is practicing, if one is not practicing Satipatthana, just living casually, then as much as one does not undertake the practice of Satipatthana, Saddhamma, the sublime Dhamma, is said to have declined, had to have disappeared, and there will be no Samana, like the situation of Devadatta during the time of the Buddha. So the Sasana will decline country-wise, and Sasana will disappear from the people if they don't practice, if they don't undertake a practice of Satipatthana. So, to be frank, don't undertake a practice of Satipatthana. So, to be frank, don't undertake a practice of Satipatthana. So,